Welcome to the video everyone. Today in this video we are going to do a book review on a book known as The Power of Universe, written by Vijeta Dahiya, one of the core team members of Dhruv Rathi's videos and Dhruv Rathi channel. Vijeta Dahiya is a script writer and as well also propels into spirituality, philosophy and the concept of psychology. Moreover, this book relates and inclines a lot with my own thought process, and I have also written a same book known as Ephemeral Reality. So this book quite inclines a lot with this my own book, and so it basically means that this book ultimately aligns with a lot of my thoughts. But whereas there is some kind of misinformation and some kind of wrong written in this book which we are going to analyze, and we will give you a provide and brief review about this book, what are the goods and the bad written in this book. So to know all this, stay with us till the end. Let's start it. Let's talk about the positive points according to me in the book. Starting with the very first thing, as you have always seen my videos, I already make videos on pseudoscience, philosophy, psychology, and I have also written 3 books of mine, in which one is solely based on philosophy only. That name is Ephemeral Reality. You can go and check it on Amazon as well. So when I say that why I like this book, because this book solely relates with me and inclines a lot with my own thoughts. This book is thought-provoking as it concludes small topics. Second reason why I like this book will be the easy English and easy words to read, as many followers of Rathi and Vijeta Dahiya as well may not be this much good to read a good vocabulary. The books become very boring when it is into the depth of vocabulary, and it is very critical vocabulary to read. So I may feel like this is a smart move to make people introduce about such concepts, and so raise an interest. This is a good step to not make vocabulary very complex. So this was a good step according to me. Third will be the small paragraphs written into segments. The book does not elongate a big paragraph and does not contain a whole big paragraph which may make people bore and create a feeling of boredom. So I mean, if I am going around somewhere, I'm traveling in a metro, I'm going my school, I'm going my colleges, I have free time sitting in my van or a bus, I can just read a paragraph and I can fix like, okay, now I'll read from here to the next time I'll get free. So this is a good and a business technique. I feel like this is something good that makes people really read your book. So it was a good step. One of the biggest thing that this book does is marketing, that it sells itself with the name of Power of Universe, but it ultimately debunks the whole Power of Universe. It trashes the concept of aura, which I particularly liked about. It totally debunks the pseudoscience by containing a chapter named Bogus Baba. If you want to really read, you can go and search it with the Dhruv Rathi Academy. You'll get it. You have to pay 59 rupees and you'll get everything. The book contains really good examples which ultimately helps readers to relate more, and they can just go and search more with those given examples and can further increase their knowledge related to philosophy, psychology and everything. And it is very critical to raise your voice against these type of topic where in India which no one else is talking about. Now let's move on to the part of criticism. Oh, I'm going to love this one and you too. So starting with the start of the book, if you see the book, I am sorry, I just cannot share the book with you as it is his personal material and he has set some amount of value to this book as you have to pay to read the book. I can surely share the screenshot where I am criticizing the part, but it will not be possible for me to share a whole book because it is a creation of a particular individual and it's not fair to share a whole book freely. So if you want to buy his book, like Vijay Dahiya book, which is being recommended by Dhruv Rathi, who is a great content creator, I don't need to introduce him. So you can go to Dhruv Rathi's Academy, Dhruv Rathi Academy. It's a website and you can go and you can purchase it. 59 rupees is the cost. So yeah, I have all the details in my laptop. I will surely share the screenshot of the part which I am criticizing, but I cannot share you the whole book. This book starts with a lot of good thought-provoking ideas where it starts with is like the universe conspires for you, lack of burning desire, wishing you a speedy recovery. Like just manifestation doesn't work every time. You cannot just sit and say, I want to be Shah Rukh Khan, I want to be the richest person in the world, and that cannot happen like that. Manifestation doesn't work that way. This book has criticized that part and I love it. I am also a critic of all these pseudoscience, so I don't believe in all this shit. So yeah, it is a good part that they did. But talking about the criticism, I'll come to a topic. If you'll read this book, there comes a topic that is known as Cure Disease with a Belief. It's a segment, it's a paragraph in which the book talks about Phineas Quimby and animal magnetism, where he says that according to him the reason for this were the presence of a wrong belief in mind. The cure suggested by him was to open the mind to the wisdom of God. He said that he talks to people and also replaces their wrongs belief with truth using his mind. This is what cures the diseases. This is what Phineas Quimby said according to him. But when you'll go into detail, you'll come next where it is talking about Think and Grow. Napoleon Hill. He talks about how Napoleon Hill described how to convert your desires into wealth. But this statement, oversimplifies Hill's ideas and neglects to mention the book's emphasis on, hard work, dedication, and resilience in achieving success. So this is somewhere I personally felt that the book just oversimplified and it should have went into the depth. And this is the biggest critique when I'll say this book doesn't go into the depth in any topic. You will see every segment, every paragraph of the book. This book doesn't go into the depth. This book doesn't touches the depth of the book, that touches the depth of the topic, which ultimately fails the book, to convince the readers like me who are little bit read about the topic. For instance, a person who is not at all aware about these kind of topics. And the example, for example, if a person is not known and is not aware about the book Think and Grow Rich and he has not read it, he will just ultimately agree with the book. But the person who have read it, for like me, I have read Napoleon Hill when I was in class 8. So I will not agree with it because it doesn't incline, it oversimplifies the statement of the book. If we'll go more into the book, it mentions about Norman Vincent Peale's 1952 book, The Power of Positive Thinking, where he tried to give further credence to these whimsical ideas. But the statement here again misrepresents Peale's idea as whimsical and focused solely on visualization and Bible verse. पूरा कंसेप्ट छोड़ के सिर्फ विम्सिकल विजुअलाइजेशन और बाइबल वर्सेस पे फोकस करके बुक जो है एकदम स्ट्रॉमन फैलेसी वाला गेम खेलती है. दिस बुक होलली neglects the other purpose of the book written and it just tries to convey his message by some credential points which are not even mentioned in the book. When you'll come here, it will show the Heal Your Life. It's a segment in which it is mentioned that in year 1984, Louise Hay said in her book, you can heal your life, but does suggest a connection between thought and physical health. This statement exaggerates the book's claims and neglects to mention Hay's emphasis on self-love, self-acceptance, and personal responsibility. This book particularly just, if her book said that you can heal your life, that doesn't particularly mean that it is emphasizing on the word. You have to go into the depth. For example, if I would have just, misinterpreted your book from the title that The Power of Universe, and I would have thought that this book is just another book gimmick like any other book that manifestation works and it does works, you have to think and believe from the core, I wouldn't have read your book. So I mean, when we talk about mentioning a particular authors, we have to go in depth, and that is exactly where this book fails. It misinterprets the idea of the whole book by just a line. For example, Louise Hay said in her book you can heal your life, and he just suggests that the connection between thoughts and physical health. I believe that I am good and I will become good, and this book focuses on that. But the real reason is not that. People have to go into the depth as this book fails to do so. Then again, if you'll come to this catering to the fear of randomness, where he talks about the book Secret and the author Randa Byrne. But again, this book's again, when you'll see, it oversimplifies the complexity of human relationships and personal growth. It basically purely neglects to acknowledge the potential benefits of optimism and finding meaning in life events. It does that, and I mean, this is something that this book fails. Because if you'll come to the part again, the signals of the universe, you can just see the book and you can just mention write the point and you can see it on yourself. It mentions that their ego lends into self-deceit, where random events are picked by them as signals. Conclusion about the danger of self-deceit and ego is over simplistic and neglects to consider the complexity of human motivations and desires. It doesn't all accommodate with that thing, right? Now coming to the next part where it is mentioning seeing positive in everything. I mean, this is something I wouldn't stop myself to agree. But again, this is good. I'll not criticize this one. I am sorry. About conditioning, like he also mentioned that sociologist B.F. Skinner outtook a significant experiment. It's about the pigeon experiment and everything, that pigeon there was experiment conducted that someday BF Skinner put a grains into the cage of pigeons, and at that time some pigeons were rotating their heads and some pigeons were peeking its beak to the cage, and then the pigeons ultimately formulated this type of misbelief and superstition that when we turn our heads around, or when we'll peek our beak into the cage, we'll get the grain. So it talk about that, but it oversimplifies the complexity of mental diseases like neurosis, schizophrenia, implying that they arises solely from apophenia. If you'll mention the point above mentioned again, if you'll see where he mentions the example of John Nash, story of John Nash is accurate, but the text implies that his schizophrenia was solely caused by his tendency to find patterns, neglecting other potential factors. It is not just because of his reasons or his tendency to find patterns. There were other reasons which this book ultimately ignores, and it has done in several ways. There are several instances where this book has ultimately just ignored other factors to prove his own point, which I totally disagree with. This is something an author should not do. Now again, the point where I totally related was homeopathy is a pseudoscience. I believe that. I have said it on my own. If you'll go to my Twitter handle and everywhere, I have said it multiple times. I still say that. But when we talk about, there is a particular mention that homeopathy is a pseudoscience and everything. The text raises important points about the lack of scientific evidence, but there are no scientific evidences supporting homeopathy and the implausibility of its principles. Like if we'll, the book says that homeopathy is a pseudoscience, but if you'll take a look, like 2019 systematic review published in the Journal of Clinical Epidemiology, homeopathic remedies has a significant effect on pain management. So I feel like homeopathy does work in a way. The studies have showed it, but ultimately this book has just debunked the whole homeopathy, and everyone like BMS students, he has just roasted them, and he is ultimately saying that this homeopathy is all about just gimmick and it's all about water and nothing else. But the studies, and ultimately he hasn't provided any proof, any scientific proof to prove that thing, that yeah, homeopathy is just nothing, just a gimmick and chow mao, but he hasn't provided any proof, whereas there are several proofs which debunks his own ideas written in the book. So I mean, you can say it is just all about shit, but people are saying it's not. Science are saying it's not. People are providing some particular instances in articles. So I don't think it is all pseudoscience, or else with students pursuing Ayurveda and everything are just going to die. So yeah, it's not about all gimmick. There must be some pseudoscience in homeopathy, because I feel like people are just trying to, in the name of made in India, make in India, people are trying to raise good things about Ayurveda and homeopathy, where I believe that, but it's not about all pseudoscience. I'll disagree on that part. He also talks about how homeopathic remedies are like you diluted to a much larger extent, and after that there's nothing left apart from water. But researchers have shown that even a highly diluted solution can have biological effects such as changes in gene expression or regular cellular behavior. Some homeopathic remedies use a process called succussion, which involves shaking the solution to potentially create nanostructures that can have biological effect. When you'll take a homeopathy medicine, this is all about liquid that it mentions, but if you'll shake the liquid, you'll ultimately see that the nanostructures that can have biological effect start to mixing, and it's not about just water, that the book ultimately fails to prove and ultimately claims. Like if I'll have to mention a particular scientific basis, because this book has failed to do so. The book has ultimately totally failed to provide any scientific evidences like the links and everything. It has totally failed so, but I will not fail so. If I am criticizing a book, I'll provide you the link. A 2012 study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine found that homeopathic remedies improved symptoms of ADHD, that is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. In the next segment, it talks about water memory, which is my favorite part. So where it talks about that Jacques tried to think of some explanation which was less unreasonable than vital force and dynamic energy. While the Benveniste affair did raise questions about the validity of water memory, some researchers continue to explore the idea of that water can retain a memory of substance it has came into contact with. I am not claiming it, the science is claiming it. To be very honest, I'm still in not that favor that water can, retain a memory of substance that is that it has came in contact with. I am not relating it. The book doesn't also, relate or more align with the same thought. But yeah, I am not criticizing the point, but I am saying that even though I don't agree with that point that water can there is some sort of shit like water memory. Maybe the writer doesn't agree. Maybe the Dhruv Rathi who has recommended the book doesn't agree. But science do agree that there are instances and some sort of scientific claims as well that water memory is a real thing. So I am not debunking it, but I will take this point as a to criticize, cause there are scientific evidences available, and if you're researching a book, you should have taken or noted that thing in a point. Yeah, my favorite point, Bogus Baba. It is super hit. I mean, this was something that I personally, felt like it is the common thing between my book and this book as well. I'm not trying to promote my book. Obviously, I am. So, if you'll read my book, there is also a particular section about Bogus Baba where I have talked about how Bogus Baba tried to, manipulate people with the sense of blending it with the Hinduism and everything. So yeah, but here in this segment where he's talking about Bogus Baba, the author who fails to provide credible source to support their claims, relying on personal opinions and anecdotes. For example, here he is mentioning that Hollywood stars among his fan, he delivers lecture in American university. I mean, if you are writing a book and if you are having that place, you should particularly mention a name. I have particularly mentioned a name. I have written my book, and in that book I have particularly mentioned the name of Bageshwar Baba. If I am not afraid, why are you afraid? I mean, if you are writing a book, have some credible courage to write a book. I mean, I know it takes a lot to write a name, why you want to hold a grudge, why you want to start a beef with someone you don't even know. But I mean, it's always good to mention the name. I mean, I did. So I really thought he would have mentioned the name, because Vijeta Dahiya is a great and well-read personality. If you'll ever meet him, I haven't met, yeah, obviously, but I have seen his interview, and he is a great personality when you talk about it. So, someone this experienced and someone this knowledgeable, I don't know why he's scared to not mention the name, but yeah, maybe. So yeah, I didn't like it. Next, if we'll talk about we are vibrating. So here he talks about sound vibration, that non-living and living vibrate at certain frequencies and everything. But the author dismisses the idea of spiritual vibration as pseudoscientific, but fails to consider the potential connections between emotional states, brain activity, and physical phenomena. So this is where I I was reading and I found it very like it is very easy to find mixtures, and maybe there is a reason why he has not gone into depth, because nowadays the people are already not aware about these topics. So it was a good and a great initiative to educate people and make them aware, make them exposed to things that are happening in the society. And because I have already seen this manifestation shit works so much. If you'll ever go to any video and search a video, they're like 15 million 20 million views on every video, where people are just learning how to manifest things and achieve success in their life. And this book debunks that totally, and I appreciate the writer so much for writing this book. Great work, sir, do keep it up. But again, just for the reason it touches a lot of point, it fails to go in depth. That will be the next criticism, that book solely fails to go in depth and talk about a concept. So for a person who is little bit read and who is having a great sense of knowledge, book fails to convince him, because it wholly does not hold any scientific proof. It does not hold any scientific particular names. So this book fails to convince people who are well read, and that's exactly where it fails. For example, it talk about aura and everything, so it oversimplifies the concept of aura as well, and dismisses it as paranormal, which considering the potential scientific explanation or culture significance. So yeah, I mean, these were all my criticism about the book. Other else, the book is greatly written, positively things noted, debunks the Indian every pseudo scientific claims and everyone. And this book is solely, which I personally liked. I don't like book more often, but this book quite aligns with my own thought, and this book is a very thought-provoking book. So if you can afford 59 rupees, of course you can. 59 rupees means nothing nowadays. So if you can totally afford 59 rupees, this book is something you must read. And yeah, this was all my book review. I personally liked it. If I have to rate it among 5, I will rate it around somewhere 3. And yeah, it's a great book. You should read.